In junior high, my science teacher said that the world would be out of fossil fuels by the year 2000. He was wrong. I've heard extreme statements and predictions basically all my life, and very few of them have turned out to be true. Don't accept what you're spoon-fed, listen to both sides, and then if you want to run around saying the sky is falling, you are a well-informed panic master. You know, 64 to 93% of statistics are all made up. We manipulate data to say pretty much whatever we want, and Al Gore is no exception. In the documentary film An Inconvenient Truth, there's a chart that links the rise in CO2 to the rise in temperature. The data reaches back over 650,000 years and was collected from ice core samples in the Antarctic. CO2 does match the temperature levels, but it trails temperature. CO2 in the atmosphere is the result of temperature going up and down. It's not the cause. So does it trail by a year, a month, or what? Try a few hundred to a few thousand years, according to Reed A. Bryson, a PhD in meteorology. It's a very strong connection over that 1,000-year difference. Wow. The Pacific Research Institute has a documentary on global warming, and you can watch it for free on their website. Now, these hippies love the environment, and what they have to say about the real effects and causes of climate change is eye-opening. Talking about global warming, everyone is fixed on CO2, but they're ignoring the sun. There's this giant blazing ball of fire in the sky. Could that have anything to do with global warming? Remember a few years ago all that talk about unusual solar activity and sun flares? Well, it turns out the sun goes through cycles too. Hotter and colder and hotter and colder. And go figure, they match perfectly with the temperature record. I just don't believe it. So why don't we talk about the sun's contribution in the global warming problem? Well, because we can't regulate it, tax it, or make it feel guilty for what it's doing. But we have to have an enemy. We have to have something to fight. And CO2 is the leading greenhouse gas, right? Well, no it isn't. Water vapor is, and by a large margin. So that hydrogen cell vehicle you were looking at getting, the one that only puts out clean water vapor, yeah, that's going to destroy the Earth. Because if you think CO2 messes up the atmosphere, clouds, jacking up the planet hardcore. When did CO2 become a pollutant? I mean, it's a natural and necessary part of the life cycle. Plants even need it to photosynthesize. So CO2 is good? Yes. Because without it, all plants die. Now we have people like billionaire idiot Richard Branson offering $25 million to anyone that can come up with a machine that takes CO2 out of the atmosphere. Put one of those in the hands of every panicky environmentalist, and you will kill every plant on the planet in a few years. Wow, I sounded alarmist just then. But it just so happens I've already invented that machine. I call it the tree. Runs maintenance-free for life and self-replicates. Okay, Rich, where's my money? I could plant a lot of trees with $25 million. Seriously, some scientists are talking about removing CO2 from the atmosphere and storing it in underground oil or water. Don't they remember 1986 when Lake Nyos released a tidal wave of CO2 that killed 17,000 people and hospitalized 845 more? Yeah, great idea, guys. Let's stockpile it and keep it nice and close. But my biggest problem with the climate change movement, besides all the misrepresented data, is that it's based on fear and panic. They're in such a hurry to cure the problem that they make irrational suggestions like, let's pump sulfur into the atmosphere to cure global warming. Great idea. Only problem is it destroys the ozone and makes everything smell like rotten eggs. But it's so environmentally friendly, and rotten eggs are natural. Sadly, alarmist environmentalism isn't new. A little over 30 years ago, Newsweek ran an article about mounting evidence of global cooling. Scientists were sure at the time that we were headed for another ice age, and the solution they proposed was melting the Arctic ice caps. I'm not kidding. They really wanted to do it. Nowadays, it's easy to look back and say, we were stupid then, but we're smart now. But are we really? Newsweek actually apologized for running the global cooling story over 30 years later. But you know, 30 years from now, a lot of people may be apologizing for the stories they're running today. Is the Earth warming? Yes. Are we responsible? In part, yes. Is our contribution significant? Probably not. At least it's a very small part of a big equation when you look at the data objectively. I'm not anti-environmental. I'm very pro-environment. I just happen to disagree that global warming is the #1 threat facing the world. There are some extremists out there who would label me a denier, or a skeptic, or a heretic, but I think that the scare tactic methods used by prominent climate crisis advocates are going to hurt environmental causes in the long run. Because you see, scare tactics, just like a bully on a playground, are only effective as long as the threat is perceived. And once a decade or two has gone by and life on this planet hasn't ceased, it'll be easy to tune out other equally important environmental issues. And that is unfortunate. Here's the real problem. We pollute far more than we need to. I see 5,000-pound SUVs rolling around with one person in them. We need to change. We need to be cleaner, more sustainable, and we have lots of new technology to do it. The real solution is to change our thinking, not scare people into temporary action. Sure, scaring is faster, but in the long run, they'll just go back to what they were doing in the first place. My prediction? Every natural disaster for the next decade or so will be labeled unnatural and man-made in order to keep up the fear of things getting worse. And the Malthusian alarmism about global warming will have its heyday, and years from now, it'll come up about as often as acid rain, which 2 decades ago was going to destroy civilization as we know it. We hope you liked the show, but if you didn't, we warned you. So look at the links on the site, be open-minded, think before you type, and please, flame responsibly. Join me, Al Gore and Richard Branson. Let's create a new 100% tax on anyone who owns stock in big oil or uses more than double the electricity of the average American household or wants to produce record pollution by chartering recreational space flight. Because those people are destroying the environment.